Preston here with a cool little side project. I just got back from a short camping trip. I've done maybe about 4 with a new inverter setup, and I want to improve a little bit about it. The main issue is that I run a 24 volt inverter because I really don't like 12 volt DC systems, and that means I have to take 2 big car batteries with me, which are pretty heavy, and there's enough wiring involved. You know, it's nothing crazy, but having each individual battery that you have to plug in, you know, and unplug, you know, in a very specific way with the Anderson quick connects I have on there, is all well and good. But when you're trying to move things around the campsite, it can become kind of a hassle, you know, when you're lugging both batteries and then the inverter, and it's sitting in the dirt or the grass where it's just kind of getting, you know, dirt everywhere, especially in the fan of the inverter, which is not very good. And you don't want to set the inverter just on top of the batteries because you could potentially short the terminals out if it just falls the wrong way. So what I want to do is this. Here are the 2 batteries, you know, just ordinary marine deep cycles. And what I have here is this prototype that I just quickly kind of welded up, where I have some angle iron on, or steel on the bottom, and some, was that 3/8 inch or so, square tube steel that is supporting an inverter, and there's some cross beams underneath this that I have gusseted and with some holes drilled so I can put bolts in to hold the inverter. And so the theory is that I can just slide the batteries into this battery cage and be able to move the entire thing as a unit. What I've discovered halfway into this is, one, that I have this notch concept in the back post, where the purpose of this is so that the batteries are supposed to fit in there pretty snug. So the batteries come in from the side, and then the first one you go in slides back to kind of sit in that lip a little bit that keeps it from jostling around, and the second battery just slides in and sits perfectly tight. And they can't really move because one of them is set in here. That's good, but the weight of both deep cycles in here, plus the inverter and this steel thing, the steel cage, is quite heavy. So I'm gonna deviate a little bit. And I went off and got 2 of these literally $3.99 wheels from, you know, Harbor Freight. Typical Chinese quality. The bearings feel like absolute crap. They're super gritty, but I have a feeling that once I put these on here, just being able to roll it back and forth, you know, with the 2 batteries is going to be absolutely priceless. So I'm going to get back to work here and see what happens. So I've gone ahead and put some 5/8 inch holes in these gussets. Turns out they're not exactly the same size, but whatever, it doesn't have to be perfect. So the cage is upside down, and I put these on here. I've tried to just kind of eyeball it in such a way that when I put these wheels on here, I'm using just regular bolts for the spindles because I'm cheap. But you can see in the back, it should line up just such that the tire extends past the back. And so instead of bumping this, bumping the frame of the cage against your truck or whatnot, the tire should bump back, and so it'll be a bit of a backstop as well. So hopefully that works out. I'm gonna try to dry fit this now. Okay, that seems to be about right. Still a little bit hot. Let's go ahead and flip this over. Put some wheels on first. Just like so. Put this on. Hopefully not burning my hand off. Here's my tool. There it is. There we go. It's got a dry run here. I already welded things on there. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfect. Oh, that's gonna be awesome. All right, let's rip this apart again. Finish that weld. Last weld completed, and I think we should be done. I'm debating whether I want to add a carrying handle to the top or not, but I don't think so because this all already weighs quite a bit. Let's flip this thing over. There you have it. It's looking pretty good. It's a good place to stop for today. You can see I added a little foot to the front, so there's, you know, 3 points of balance. I was kind of debating putting 2 feet on there, but I thought that actually probably wouldn't work too well, especially when you're outdoors. So far, I'm extremely happy with it. I already dry fit all the components inside. The little notch things in the back are working fantastic. The way that the wheels, they're 10-inch wheels, you know, again, just cheap things from Harbor Freight, but they're providing just enough bounce where when you get the batteries in, they're underweight, you know, they just kind of cushion the blow a little bit when you're rolling across rocks. I think it's going to work out really well. For the foot on the front, I'm just going to put a little plastic cap in the bottom of that, which will make it slide a little bit easier. So when I load into the back of the truck, I should be able to just kind of slide it back and forth without worrying about damaging my truck bed with the bottom of that steel. All in all, for parts I just had kind of laying around, except for the wheels, I'm pretty happy with it. So let's get it put together and see what the finished product looks like. But not before applying some black paint. I don't know what I was thinking. Got to paint this thing. Gonna take a couple days, so we'll check back in about 24 to 48 hours according to the can and see how it turned out. Here we go. The paint got wearing down a little bit when it was curing, but it overall turned out really well, I think. The flaws from the water aren't too bad. Gave it a little test run yesterday. Obviously I have the wheels on there. It rolls around very well going up and down the driveway. The two issues that I think I'm going to have long term with this, first are that the switching of between 12 volt and 24 volt, depending on for times that I actually do need DC power, such as running a winch, a large winch, and secondly, like jump starting something. There's the potential for error and switching back and forth and potentially, creating a kind of a circular loop because of all these Anderson connectors on here. I might have to remove some of those because I want to keep the inverter on 24 volt, but there are a lot of things that use 12 volts, so I'm not quite sure I'm going to do that. The second, which comes up very frequently, it seems, is that it's heavy enough, even with these wheels, that you do have to lift, because it doesn't have 4 wheels, it just has 2, so you got to lift it and just kind of drag it around. If you're getting a little older like me, I'm not old, but I do have a bad back, and just kind of lifting it while crouched and dragging it uphill is not super fun. So some sort of removable handle I think would be a little better on this, but I'm going to bolt the inverter on first and see how the height is and kind of give it a good test run before I do that. And here it is, the completed prototype of this mobile power station for 12 and 24 volt DC systems. I got the inverter mounted here on the top. You can see it's bolted down pretty securely. The fan is underneath that, and I assume it blows air downward. I'm actually not sure of the direction of that, but in any event, it should help with some of the venting issues of just setting the inverter on the ground, and so it's got air clearance. The heat sink obviously has air on all sides, so that really shouldn't be a problem anymore. I didn't want to add any more weight at this point, and so I put in just some cord here. Not the most elegant solution, but it is light, and it makes it very super simple to just lift up and drag with you across the campsite for whatever application. On the back end, roll back here, it's definitely a little too bulky. I need to shorten up some of these cables. I think those are like 0 gauge, some absurd high gauge. Because sometimes you just need absurd amounts of power. I am using these clamps here. I think I can simplify the setup. I do want to keep some of these big Anderson connections here because, again, it is used to power a winch that just happens to be sitting over there. That is also on an Anderson system, as well as, for jump starting cars. And because I have jumper cables, I usually cut my jumper cables and put quick connectors on like this so that you can very flexibly interchange things when you're in a jam across vehicles. It's come in useful on more than one occasion. On the front of it, when you're just sitting camping out and you want to remotely shut on and off the power, the inverter, I made sure to get one that has a built-in wired remote button, which is optional. So what is this? Giandel pure sine wave inverter. This has been a great inverter. The remote switch is also great because you can be sitting in the comfort of your trailer or camper, whatever you're in, tent, hit the button, instant power. You can turn off the lights, if you got the inverter power on your lights at your campsite without even getting out. So highly recommend that if you're going to build one of these. So there's some cleanup I need to do. I think on the front side, I also want to put some sort of multimeter for the individual batteries. I also have these quick connects here, which is what I use for connecting quick chargers. The safety issue of potentially, shorting yourself out, you can see I've got these kind of medium amperage Anderson connectors here that put the batteries in series so that I can run the 24 volt inverter. However, if I wanted to leave this set up and also jump something or run something that required 12 volt, I can't just tap in directly to one of the terminals without disconnecting the 24 volt. Of course, that can lead to voltage indifference issues across the batteries. So I have a direct 12 volt connection to each battery in series that you can then connect to a trickle charger and when you're home, just to charge each one so they're not floating at different levels. At least that's how I understand the best way to do it is, and it hasn't caused me any issues. Anyway, so that's the project. If you're going to do it, I highly recommend some layout similar to this. I've just been using it the last couple days informally at home, and it seems like it's going to work out really well. Also, if you have a truck with a tonneau cover on it, remember that you may want to put this under the tonneau cover, and so the dimensions of it do need to match up, so it's not going to prevent that cover from closing completely on your truck. Other than that, hope you enjoy this and good luck.